You're listening to the Magnetic Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Calandra Martin, intuitive brand designer for spiritual entrepreneurs. The Magnetic Boss Podcast is where visionaries come together to openly share wisdom and authentic conversations. I know that you are ready to leave your legacy in the world and become sought out in your industry. I also know that you are sick and tired of getting overlooked. You're ready to have a magnetic business. I'm here to help you create your magnetic brand. It's my mission to help you show up confidently with a professional, irresistible online presence. If you're in this for the long game and all in on the big vision you have for your business, let's dive in. Welcome back to the Magnetic Boss Podcast. Today I have a quick tip for you. And this is going to be a shorter episode because I want you to take this information and run with it. I really encourage you to begin implementing this in your marketing right away to start building brand recognition. So this is very, very simple. And you may do this already without even realizing that you do it. But one of the easiest ways to get your content recognized on social media is to brand your content. And I am not talking today about your visuals and your graphics, your brand photos. I'm actually talking about the way that you structure and present your copy on social media. So on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, wherever you are typing a caption, I want you to be mindful of not only the formatting and the way that you type, but most importantly, the emojis that you may or may not be using in your written content. Now, this is something that you will see very clearly if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is at calandra.martin if you want to go take a peek. And this is something that I have been doing since the beginning of my online business. And over time, as my visual brand became more cohesive and I had clarity on what that looked like, I was able to then use emojis that fit with my branding really well. So what I want you to know here is that even if you have a brand that doesn't match the traditional emojis that you might find, so I'm thinking about the different variations of the hearts. If you don't have a purple, a yellow, a green, a blue, a black, a red, or a pink brand, you will find other emojis in your keyboard option that you can use instead of that. And really be thinking about what these emojis that you're using translate to your audience. How do they make them feel? And I know that's really reading far into things, but they play an important role in how your content is perceived and what is stopping people's scroll when they are seeing your content on social media. So looking at your color palette for your branding and also the niche for your business, the types of things that you are speaking to and sharing about, you can then go into your emoji keyboard and find some emojis that you can continuously use. Now, you want these to be emojis that you can use in many different contexts. So if you're using something like, let's just say a house emoji, but you're not normally talking about a house or a home situation, then it probably wouldn't make sense to use that emoji in your branding. So an example of this without showing you visually that I can share is that in my branding, the emojis that I typically use are either the purple or the black heart, depending on the post, the star emoji or the sparkle emoji. Now there's a couple of variations of this, but this is a yellow colored twinkling emoji. It speaks to the mysticism and the spirituality aspect of my business and my niche because I primarily work with spiritual entrepreneurs. And you'll also see me using the emojis like the high five or the clapping hands, but probably not the thumbs up, right? I'm really consistent with the 10 or so emojis that I am using and transitioning throughout my content based on the context. Now, what I want to mention here is that it is important to format your copy on social media in a digestible and pleasing way for your audience. So I see some people using emojis too much or too frequently in a single post. So rule of thumb is that you only want a couple of emojis per caption unless you have a longer caption or you're using these emojis as bullet points, which is something I typically do in my copy. You really just want to make sure that when somebody sees your content, they are recognizing the emojis and they're building that correlation with that emoji and your business. And you want them to still be reading the content and seeing what your caption actually says. So don't go overkill on this, but be mindful of what you're using. And what will happen over time is a couple of things. The first one is that the consistency with using these emojis is going to build a more cohesive visual brand. Between your graphics, your visuals, and your captions matching that, you'll really be building that visual consistency for your audience when they are scrolling through your content. So let's say they're going to your feed on Instagram, or they're reading the captions on your stories on Instagram. If you're using consistent emojis, you're going to be building a subconscious pattern for them to recognize the correlation between that emoji. So for me, it's most often the purple heart and your branding. So this is a really powerful tool because you are going to notice that your audience will begin reflecting that back to you. And what's really cool about this is a very subtle phenomenon, but I have seen this happen firsthand in my community, is that through using these emojis consistently, for example, my business, the purple heart, the stars, the high fives, or high tens, the two hands hitting up in the air, those ones, you will see that your audience is going to start using those too. So when they're commenting on your content, they're going to use a lot of the same emojis that you use. The reason that this is so important is because this is actually building a sense of community and camaraderie within your brand. And the reason that's important is because when people feel involved, when they feel this sense of community, they will be so much more drawn to your brand. They're going to want to leave a comment and add that emoji in there like everybody else has been doing. And this creates a really fun back and forth between you and your audience. So there is so much benefit to this in the long term. Now, you using emojis in your captions is not going to make you six figures overnight. This is not a get rich quick hack for you today. This is a tip that is going to build sustainability and a strong foundation in your brand over time. There are a lot of different things that we could talk about today when it comes to creating consistency with your visual brand. But again, I'm going to keep today's episode short and sweet. I want you to implement this and see, with using this method, this tip over time, how it impacts your content, how it makes your content feel. And you may notice that people start to interact with your content differently simply by adding some emojis, adding some personality, and really layering on to your voice, right? The messaging in your captions is going to be really important, and you can add the icing on top of the cake by using these emojis and keeping things fun and in alignment with your brand. So that is your homework for today's episode. I want you to take a few seconds after you have listened or while you're listening to this episode, pull up the notes section in your phone and just go through the emojis in your keyboard and find which ones feel aligned for you. Now, you may want to add some alternative emojis that you're using for specific circumstances so that that is really drawing attention to your post. Because if people are seeing, let's say, the purple heart and the stars in every single post, and then all of a sudden I throw in one of the smiley face emojis with the heart eyes, people are going to say, hey, that looks different. I know that's Calandra's content, but what's going on here, right? And they're not going to realize that that's what's happening in their brain, but you are going to shift the patterning that they are getting used to seeing. So give yourself a library of emojis. I like to do this in my notes so that you can keep a visual reference and share that with maybe your VA or whoever supports you in your business. And of course, the more that you use these emojis, they will show up in your recently used emojis on your phone, on your keyboard. And you can use these as well if you are planning content out on your computer. You can type up your document or throw it in Trello or wherever you are adding your content, and then just add those emojis in before you are scheduling content or putting content onto these social platforms. So let me know how this goes for you. I would love to see the emojis that you come up with. If you want to post this to your Insta stories and tag me, I think that would be a super fun way for everybody to share their branding through emojis. So I really want to see how creative you can get with this. Have fun with this exercise. And as always, I am so grateful for you tuning into the podcast, sharing the podcast with somebody who may benefit from this message, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you are listening so you never miss a beat. For episode show notes, visit calandramartin.com/podcast. Your iTunes reviews and your sharing of the show helps us reach more magnetic bosses just like you. Until next time.